Good evening and welcome to Business Today on Channel I. On this program, we talk about many interesting topics, and if you've been an avid follower of the program, you would know what this program is about. And keep tuning in to today's episode as well while we discuss business today. We have with us today the Deputy Registrar of the University of the Visual and Performing Arts, and to know more about who this individual is, let's take a look at the character profile.
Chani Imbulgoda is an experienced higher education administrator, researcher and author. She is currently reading for her PhD in Quality Assurance in Higher Education at the prestigious Postgraduate Institute of Management affiliated with the University of Sri Jawadhanapura, Sri Lanka. She possesses a vast knowledge of quality assurance in higher education and serves as an external quality reviewer for non-state educational institutes. She holds an MBA from PIM and a BSc Management Honours degree from the University of Sri Jawadhanapura. Her professional qualifications extend to banking and chartered accountancy acquired during her early period of her career. She is a product of Visakha Vidyalaya, Colombo. As a fresh graduate, she joined the private sector merchant banking business as an assistant manager. After serving 2 full years covering responsibilities in project planning, management and finance, she has switched her career to the state university sector in Sri Lanka as an administrative officer. She has made several innovative changes to the administrative system in the university, including capacity building of staff and streamlining administrative procedures. Another milestone in her career is serving the South Asian University established by the SAARC member states from 2013 to 2014 as a pioneer administrative officer who contributed to system change in the international arena. As the founder, head of research and international collaboration department of the University of Visual and Performing Arts, Colombo, she has initiated several beneficial long-lasting collaborations with overseas higher education and research institutes. Writing is her passion. Opening the eyes of others to new vistas, delving deep and bringing the other side of reality is what she does through her writing to national and international newspapers and websites. She's a passionate reader, traveler and photographer. Uplifting human lives through proper education is her motto.
Good evening, Mrs. Chani, and welcome to the program.
Good evening, Prashant.
All right, now usually we talk about business on this program, but I realize that education has a really close link with the business and corporate world, and that is why you're here to talk more about that topic. And to start off, I'd like to ask you, what is the role of higher education?
Yeah. First of all, I thank Rupavahini Corporation and you for taking me on board to discuss something we don't discuss as business, higher education. The role of higher education, the prime role is developing human capital. In developing human capital, we have to address head, heart and hands of the people. That is the role of the higher education. It is not just providing a technical education, bringing up a person with technical knowledge, know how to do, but to bring a person with sensitivity, emotional intelligence, creativity, who can think critically and contribute to the society.
Right. Now, we hear a lot of terms going around today, especially amongst the youth, and they do all sorts of qualifications from diplomas, bachelors, masters, all the way up to PhDs. And a question that a lot of us have in our minds is, are these titles and are these qualifications vital for one's success?
No, it's not vital for one's success. We have heard enough stories, starting from Benjamin Franklin, who has not got a formal education, Albert Einstein, whom we are still talking about. The recent examples are Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, who left the university to pursue their ventures and who are successful, really successful. But still, these degree certificates are valid to pursue one's aims. But it is not the degree certificate that build up a person. The journey towards gaining these certificates, that is really important. As I said earlier, the critical thinking ability, communication skills, information literacy, those things have to be taken up by individuals through formal education. So you cannot say that formal education and these bachelor's degrees, postgraduate degrees are not important. They are really important. There are few examples who have gone up the career ladders and who have become successful individuals. But there are many more examples of people who had formal education and these PhDs and postdoctorates who are doing great service to the community. So you should not forget the importance of higher education.
Right, and like you said, these are really one-off cases and very rare cases where people who have left their universities or really not have had any formal education and they've climbed the corporate ladder. They're very rare, but on the other side of the coin are the majority of people who have actually gained a lot of experience and knowledge from this formal education. Now, another question that I always ponder on is the information and the knowledge that you can gain from technology nowadays, because in the past, unless you really had your formal education or you pursued a certain subject, you would not really have much knowledge about that subject. But now, with the click of a button, you can really access anything and everything. So when we have such information at our hands, what really drives people towards traditional educational methods?
That's the recognition, one thing. That is the primary aim, why we are getting formal education. When you are gaining these certificates, these qualifications we discussed earlier, you get kind of a recognition in the job market and among the community. But the other thing is that there are lots of information available on the net. But what happens when the people get acquainted with all this information? We don't have to look back. We can see recent examples, what really has happened with this information, Facebook, social media and the media. People are just, they just pick the information and they just act, sometimes violently. But if you have a formal education, then you know how to choose the information.
So sometimes having the entire platter of information might actually bring harm to people.
Exactly.
Right.
You have to build your moral capacities. You have to learn how to make decisions among plethora of information, what is right. So we need formal education. The role of higher education is build the moral capacities of the people.
Right, so just having the information isn't enough, but you need a moral standpoint as well.
Yes.
All right, and something I hear quite often is that nowadays companies are really asking for a degree, at least some sort of borderline education. So have you really seen a rise in these educational qualifications and people actually going to their universities and getting college degrees in the younger generation compared to the previous generations?
Yes, it's a global phenomenon. You know that when we compare to past decades, it has doubled. The students are going for formal education and gaining degrees, and it is projected that in the next decade, it will be doubled again. In the Sri Lankan context as well, we see students just passing out from just completing O-levels and A-levels, they go for higher degrees, locally and internationally. So there is a rise.
And what exactly has fueled this rise? Has there been some sort of, can you say that there is a direct reason as to why this has happened, or has it been an accumulation of events that has led to this increase?
I would say it is an accumulation of events.
Okay.
And the culture, the parents, those are the things that come to my mind first. You know that we are living in a very competitive society these days, and when you As a parent, when you see your neighbor's son is getting a university degree, anyhow you want to do it. That is the reality.
Yeah.
So this is one kind of a thing. You are running towards certificates and degrees. That is one thing. And the information availability. When you have a lot of information on these degrees, you tend to go for that. You tend to gain some academic qualification. You open Sunday newspapers. There are lots of information about the education qualifications.
Yes.
And when you look at the industry, if you want to do a white collar job, you have to have a degree. So these are the reasons why people are going for the degree. And it may not be the natural desire to gain knowledge, but just to be competitive and gain some advantage of it.
Do you think that this sort of competition, especially among parents, is healthy, or what are your thoughts on this?
There are two sides. We just cannot say this is healthy and this is not healthy. It is good to be competitive and learn and earn. But on the other side, you should never aim to get a degree from a shop.
Mm-hmm.
You have to learn the things hard way. I'm always going back to the role of the higher education.
Mm-hmm.
Developing a capable individual. A capable individual cannot be developed with paper qualifications only.
So it's not the actual certificate that adds the value, but the journey to the certificate.
So it's good. Parents encourage their children. Our parents have done that. That is why we are here, and still we are at this age also we are learning. So it is a good thing to go for education, but you should go for the right education, not to just have a title, you are a doctor or so and just to show off.
Mm-hmm.
No, it is not the education. You have to learn to do something for the country, for the economic development.
Right. Now, speaking of the economic development, what intervention does the higher economic or the higher educational sector have for this economic crisis?
There are a lot of things that higher education sector can do. One thing is outreaching, but we are not yet tapped our potential. There's a huge potential, especially as a country, Sri Lanka. We are located in a very advantageous geographical location with lots of resources which we have not utilized. And I think since last 2 decades we were talking about building Sri Lankan higher education sector as a knowledge hub. So at this economic crisis, one thing is that we are bothered about dollar income. But how much we are spending to send our children overseas? Why don't we get our private sector, non-state sector to open up a lot of private education institutions, but with proper quality, by having good collaborations with reputed international universities and increase the accessibility. If you give the right quality, the quality of education, then if you can feel the international atmosphere and international learning in these institutes, people would not try to go abroad and earn and learn.
Exactly. And how successful do you think that these educational institutions have been in implementing such measures?
Quite frankly, we are not very successful, and I know as a reviewer also, we are not doing our best. There are serious concerns about the quality of education. So we have to regulate the non-state higher education sector. And again, we are having international collaboration divisions in our own state universities. So we have to expand our activities beyond exchange programs, beyond organizing conferences. We have to increase the foreign student intake where we can earn foreign income, and that will give a path to tourism industry as well. If you take one foreign student on board, then they will invite their parents, their friends, then we are getting this tourism industry promoted as well. We have to think out of the box.
Exactly, because whenever we think of the tourism sector and promoting tourism, we always think of the mainstream or the stereotypical tourists, but we never really think about inviting foreign students over. So that could actually be a great strategy. And when implementing such strategies, what sort of obstacles and challenges do you think the industry could face?
The first thing is that administrative bottlenecks. Sorry to say, we are still living in this 1970s, 1980s administrative structure. We like to show the power of administration by making the processes longer, letting the people to wait to get things done. So these things have to be amended. Ministry of Education, the government has a really big role in doing that. Because it is not only the higher education institution or the state university that hold these things, but the ministry, we have to wait for months to get the approvals. These things have to be streamlined. And the other thing is resistance to change, the mindset of people. If we say that we are going to open a private university, or if we are saying that we are inviting more foreign students to our national state universities, there are agitations. The local students will not like it. The lecturers might raise certain concerns. Are we going to sell the education? No, it is not. We have to think long term. We are always losing the wood for a tree. That is what is happening at the moment. So we have to think long term, and we have to provide essential facilities for our local students, and same time we have to utilize the funds and the resources that are coming through these foreign education and privatization, private sector education, to enhance the infrastructure and the support services of the local students. So it's a two-way process.
Right. So
there are many other obstacles as well.
Hopefully we'll be able to overcome these obstacles and pave the way for a better future. Now, there is a talk about industry and university linkage. Just tell me a bit about this topic.
Yeah, university and business linkage is a long discussed thing. The industry is considered as the engine of growth. But who will drive this vehicle? The human being. So we have to develop the capabilities, competencies of the human being. And to perform well, the industry needs knowledge, the technical know-how. The universities are there to do research and inventions and provide consultancy to the industry. So these things have to be strengthened. Of course, we are having good relationships with the industry. You might have experienced that during Corona period, we were doing a lot of research, and we were publishing it, and we were doing a lot of things, but it is not enough. It is not enough. When you talk about the industry in the higher education sector, basically they think about having internships for their students and inviting them for meetings, something like that. But no, there are a lot of avenues where you can share the resources with the industry.
Do you mind just naming a few resources?
Well, we have laboratories in our universities. Perhaps the industry might not have it. So we can share. And the auditoriums. That Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation, you have good auditoriums. So do the universities have their need individual auditoriums? No. You can share the resources. There should be a way of doing that. Or even you can go to a university and do your recordings. Certain things are like that. Not only Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation, but there are many mushrooming private sector media firms. But we don't have that trust culture. We don't trust the industry. Industry does not do not trust the university system. We have to build that trust. And there are lots of other resources also, human capital, the knowledge.
And like you mentioned, having such trust and connection would actually open up a lot of ways that you can make your work a lot efficient. Because one sector might have something that the other is lacking, and vice versa. And just off the top of your head, do you think you can just name maybe a way or two that this connection can be established or further improved?
One thing is we have to develop our administrative system. I told you that we are having long procedures. So we get into the engagement with the industry, but very soon we are going to get the divorce. That is what is really happening.
Yeah.
Because you get fed up with working with the university system. And sometimes, the industry is run by youngsters like you. Mostly they get qualified and they start some companies and they work hard and they get into that. But the universities, when you talk about the senior professors, sometimes this generation isn't, and senior people, there is no proper collaboration. They don't like to listen to the youngsters sometimes, and youngsters might not like to listen to the others. So these things are there, but we have to improve the communication between these two sectors, industry and the higher education sector, and streamline our administrative processes and make awareness among the industry that there are lots of resources where you can use and you can get from the university system.
All right. And that actually brings us to the end of this program. But before we wind up, do you have anything that you would like to tell the youth who are watching this program?
Yes. One thing is that I told that head, heart and hand. Normally we feed our head and hands, but we forget our heart. So youth, you must feed your head and heart, and then your hands will work wonders. So you have to learn the things in hard way and smart way, and don't forget about the formal education, but don't try to get instant education.
Right, so not to find the easy way, but actually go through the hard way. All right, thank you so much for that. That was Chani Imbulgoda, the Deputy Registrar of the University of the Visual and Performing Arts. Thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you.
All right, and that winds up today's episode of Business Today. Do join us next week as well. Till then, have a good night.